And let's put this cute little thing on it. Okay. So right now, I'm actually going live. I'm a little bit late because it took me a few minutes to actually figure out how to get this app to work. I'm currently going live on Instagram right now to tell you about a project. And I'm going to be sharing visuals. So if you're actually truly deeply interested in this topic, which is how to launch a product and go from $0 in revenue to $200,000, if you are interested in this topic, then you should join me actually on YouTube or on Facebook, because I cannot unfortunately share with everybody the graphic assets on this particular app. Hi everybody. I'm just letting you know that I am going live right now because I'm going to talk about how to go from $0 in revenue to $200,000 in revenue. And I figured that the best way to show people how to do it, either people hire us through Pearl Resourcing, which does branding, or they hire me as a consultant to help them make strategies. The best way for me to show someone that I know how to do these things and to help you to be able to launch any kind of business or just grow your profession in general is to walk you through the process of taking an idea and bringing it to $200,000 in revenue and go from scratch, go from absolutely nothing. So if you were at all here 2 weeks ago, I was talking about ideation, which is the process of figuring out what your product should be, which involves identifying your target audience, identifying your target, what their problem is, like what is it that you need to solve for them, and then identifying, how you're going to do it better. So we talked about the structural design, problem, business, operations, elements of deciding what direction of business you're going to actually launch. Today, we're actually going to talk about the visual elements. So if you're watching right now, I unfortunately cannot share screen with you. So I have a lot of beautiful pictures and illustrations that I'm going to be posting onto both Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So if you're interested in seeing me show you logos, our logo exploration process and how that applies to you, or if you're interested in actually seeing the visual designs that we will be using in actually designing the new face masks that we're going to be coming up with, I again invite you to either YouTube Live or Facebook Live. So this is not the mask that I'm going to be discussing today, but this is a mask that I bought from a different store that you can see here that we are going to improve upon. So here are some design elements that I went through and took notes with a number of different friends and family members. We talked about what don't we like visually about this, because again, today I'm going to be talking about branding and visual design of launching a new product. So the first thing you do to go through and decide what you want your visual design to look like is you need to identify, what things you didn't like about what's already out there in the market, because I'm sure everyone's heard of a blue market strategy, but that is the concept that when everybody's doing this, you will stand out to sell the most when you choose something that's the opposite of that. So finding and defining those key elements of what your competition's doing, and deciding, how are we going to deliver something that's not already been done is the best way to generate sales. And that applies not only to the product specs, but also to the actual visual elements of the product that you're designing. And so let's look first at the actual elements of this structure, the way that this looks. Most masks are either, a single solid color, or a few of them have been getting crazy with patterns. The downside that I've heard from people who are wearing the white face masks is that they are often having a dirty appearance. They show dirt. For anybody who's a woman who wears makeup or a man who sweats, they get dirty very quickly. These types of things fray. These little ear holds fray. They look cheap. They also get dirty very quickly around your ear if they're a light color. We also notice that these little layers, I've heard so many people say that these are too scratchy. So these are visual design elements that are structural that we would want to do differently on the face mask that I'm going to launch. So I personally, this is another one I purchased. It actually was, made to exactly fit a person's face. This one is sort of generic, but it doesn't fit my face very well. And I'll tell you that there's these little pieces of fabric that are the seams that itch. They itch my chin, they itch my lips. As I'm talking, I feel like I'm just scratching my face. And these little tiny loops, you can tell, have already frayed. So they made them in a way that would kind of loop around here, and already they have already begun to expire as a product. So these are like visual design complaints that I personally would love to hear from anyone watching what complaints you have about the visual design of your products. A lot of people have also said that they don't like all of this solid, serious colors. So that's another thing that if we wanted to stand out and look different, we would actually want to take a design approach that would be the opposite of the designs currently out there. So again, all of them are kind of boring, simple patterns. So if we want to be different, we need to pick designs that will actually cause us to stand out. This is another visual element right here. You can see that this is a fabric face mask. And at first, this was one of my favorites because it's not hot, okay? These are the pros. But I cannot move my mouth. It is so tight around my face, even when I use the bigger ear loop, that you can't, I mean, just my face, I can't talk. I can't talk, and also the material curls at the edges. So these are elements we don't like, and these are the complaints. So if you are launching your own business, physical product business, you want to go through that process and look at the structural and visual elements of what the competition is doing and identify how are you going to be different? Why should you start a business? How are you going to communicate to your customers visually that you're a different, better, and improved product? So we have just touched base on the structural physical elements of masks that we're going to eliminate. If anyone is interested in looking at the visual design, the actual logos, unfortunately, I cannot show it on Instagram Live, but I can show it here on YouTube. And so I'm going to show right now, if you want to go and transfer over to YouTube or Facebook Live, I'm going to be able to share screens, but I'm going to keep talking here on Instagram, but I'm just letting you know that the goal of this is to be discussing visual design elements of creating a product. And I unfortunately cannot do that very well without being able to share screen with you. So here I'm going to share screen on, here we go, preview. I'm currently sharing screen on, oops, share screen. There we go. Yep. Share. Okay, let's see if that worked. Please, if you are watching on YouTube, please let me know if you're able to see it or if for some reason that you are not. So here are the things that I want to talk about for the visual design pieces. Whenever we are designing a logo, we start by identifying this blue ocean strategy of saying, how do we visually stand out and look different than our competition? So this can involve, besides what I just did here, hi Autumn, you can go and buy products that are your competition. So if you're trying to launch a new product, you go and buy examples of the competition to see and inspect what is it that you do and do not like about it so that you can make sure your product will visually be different. The other thing we do is we walk store shelves. We take a picture, literally in the store. We take an iPhone and we take a picture of the category where we intend to sell products. And the interesting thing about that is that your eyes are, you know, God made them so that, or, you know, the universe, if you don't believe in God, but I'm telling you, there's got to be some kind of creation because our eyes are so incredible. The first thing that they notice is color. And also shape and size, like how close something is to us. Like size is sort of helps to define how close something is to us, a danger or an asset. And so when you are looking at a product and you're trying to design something, you want to take a macro level picture of that category to see what packaging colors are are trending in your category and what things really catch your eye. Because when you're creating a design, you want to be different than the competition. If someone has never heard of your product before and you look like everybody else, what will be the point of difference that will allow that person to anchor a memory to the quality of your product? You need some sort of a visual cue. So when you're designing your branding, that's where we start as a design agency, and that's where you should be starting if you're launching your own physical product as well. The next thing that we talk about is our target customer. So for example, you want to know whether or not your product will be sold in Target, or are you trying to sell it online on Amazon? Because those are two different shelf environments. Are you trying to sell it into Williams-Sonoma? That's a completely different shelf environment than a Target. Target has these like rigid shelves with no lighting, on them. And so if you are trying to design packaging to stand out to sell, you must first identify who your target customer is so that you can take pictures and do an analysis to design something that will stand out in that environment where you plan to sell. So I just described the fact that you should identify the core stores or online commerce platforms where you'll be selling your products. But that's just the first layer of sales. The first layer of sales, of course, is to sell it into a store or to sell it into an online commerce platform. But also we want to look at the actual person shopping those types of stores. The person who needs to see your product on that store shelf. So what does that mean? We want to identify who our target audience is. Or is it millennials? What is their education level? Where do they typically shop? How much do they spend? And by studying our target customer, it allows us to really deeply understand them and better communicate visually the packaging artwork that we're trying to design. So again, for anybody who's new on this live, what we are talking about today is how to launch a product from $0 to $200,000 in revenue. And this week, we're specifically talking about the visual design elements. So we've talked about the structure here. We've talked about the patterns that go onto the product, because I'm using this as an example of this face mask that I'm going to launch, and we're going to take from $0 to $200,000 in revenue. I've gone through and looked at all the different materials and competitors to see what I don't like, to see what the patterns are, to make sure that whatever I'm doing is not just a copycat. Because here's the reason why it matters. Visually, if you're just a copycat and you look like everybody else and there's no visual design element that creates a story that captures attention, you will not get your initial sale. You will blend in with obscurity to the other products that are currently on the shelf. That's number one. You won't even get an initial sale. But if you don't visually express and communicate to your clients, you won't get a resale because they will not remember who you are. When they don't know who you are, everything is a price war. You're competing strictly on price. And if a person is shopping in a different spot, they don't see your product, they don't notice it, they don't understand who you are and why you're better, then they are not going to continue to come back. And so you might say to me, Emily, you're just trying to sell packaging design. Like my product speaks for itself. The problem is, bro, sis, is that we are so busy. We are such busy people. I can barely keep up with my text messages. I've got family members who, my aunts and uncles, like I can barely keep up with my life. And neither can your customer. So when they're shopping in the store, as much as you love your product and you feel you're so different, you've got an ice cream that is unlike any other strawberry ice cream. If your customer does not feel like innately, intuitively, like a knee-jerk reaction, remember, identify, and love your product, you are not going to have space in the storage that is their brain. And so, of course, if the product is delicious, it might stand out. But you need your story to be captured within that packaging so that you get your initial sale and your repeat buy. And the other argument I'm going to give to you is that your brain, as it's forming in the womb, actually starts forming in the very back of your brain. And your prefrontal cortex, which is the front part, which processes meaning, is where we process words, forms after this part back here. This part back here, which forms the very beginning when you're a child in the womb, is what identifies color, sound, and the size of those colors. So the most primal part of our brain is all visual. That's how the most powerful way to connect to your customer is visually, because it's the first reaction that we as people have is going to be in that visual space. So what I want to argue to you is that investing time and energy into telling your story in a memorable visual way will result in future sales for you. Okay, so we have just explained why it's important to have visual design. I've explained how you need to first look at your competition to make sure that you are going to choose a strategy that will help you to stand out and tell your story better. The next thing I want to share, and then you need to identify your target audience. The next thing you need to do is hire a designer or do the design yourself with all of these things in mind to be the opposite of them. And what I highly recommend that you do is do something called a brand exploration. So if you are here watching on Facebook Live or on YouTube, then you should be able to see my screen. I haven't heard any comments yet that you cannot, so please let me know if you cannot see my screen. But basically what I'm showing you here is an example of a brand exploration. And so we found that the most successful way to find your ideal design is to design in threes. And I'm going to give full credit to Kat Reyes, who has been working with me for over 5 years and who helped to develop, she developed this concept of threes. So if you are designing your packaging and you want to get to like the money, what you need to do is design 3 possible looks that could serve your target audience. So that would be, you'd say, I want to get into Target and I want to serve which shopper within there. Okay, we're going to serve, young men ages 18 to 45. So given that target customer, what are visual designs that will speak to them that are different than your competition? So you go through and you design 3 different unique looks. And so in my case, I am going to design something that I want to pop. And what the key thing I've noticed for all of these face masks, thank you for sending some love. The thing that I've noticed on these face masks is that they're all very boring and they're very drab. And I have to walk into office buildings. I've been on airplanes, traveling to go have meetings with clients. And this looks like I am wearing a Band-Aid over my face, and I do not feel professional and I do not feel happy. These are not happy colors. These are very, they remind me that there's a pandemic, and you can't see my smile. You can't see my charm and my energy. So the thing that I personally would like to do is to create something that's different, that actually has a lot of energy and a bright, bold look. I also personally would love to sell to people who like to have fun and who are very energetic about life activities. So they want to be a sporty, and they want to be active. So for me, that is my target audience for my new face mask company. And so what I did, if you are on YouTube Live, is you can see here that I did a brand exploration that's very exotic, tropical, and loud. So if you were on these new platforms, you could see that there are 3 different possible directions of where I have, our design team has created that we could take these face masks. And so if you are going through this process yourself, ask yourself, who is your target audience? And I'd love to see that in the comments below. If you wanted to share, who is your target audience? Where are you trying to sell your products? And there's a temptation for everybody out there to say, I want to sell to everybody. Okay, look, if you try to sell to everybody, you're going to sell to nobody. The most powerful way that you can actually capture more sales is to really be clear on the top 20% of your customers. So if you really want to increase your sales, I highly recommend that you identify who your top 20% of your clients will be and design your marketing, your packaging, artwork, and your sales strategy to address those people. I think most of the people listening here are, forward thinkers. They're trying to work on themselves. And the act of developing a business, I'm sure you've heard Pareto's law, and that says that 80% of your income comes from 20% of your clients. And so what that means is you'll be able to get more business from everybody, but what you should focus on is the 20% who are your optimal clients. And this is so incredibly true, because if you try to serve everybody, the lower 80% actually are the source of massive amounts of problems. It's so incredible, but my clients who give me 80% of my income are so easy to work with. They don't ask too much from me. They're really easygoing. They're very friendly. And so I just would recommend serve those people who appreciate you, which is the top 20% who are your most loyal clients. So you owe it to yourself to design in a vacuum, in the lane. Pick your target stores, pick your target customer shopping those stores and design a brand to match those people and do it in threes. Okay, so that's the summary of what I'm recommending. If you were trying to also launch your business from $0 to $200,000 in revenue, you need to capture visually what your company's spirit is. Like, why are you going to be different? And how are visually people going to be able to identify you in the future? So once you identified your customer and you've identified some visual elements that you want, I think that one other thing that I could throw out there that I probably should have mentioned in the beginning is that story matters. And it's interesting because I see a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners rushing to hire someone from Upwork or from some random person in a different country, and they expect them to design a brand. They don't talk to them on the phone. They don't really answer any questions except for sending them pictures. And I'm not saying that's bad. You know, I've hired people from Upwork before too, to do some quick and fast things that I couldn't find someone, everyone else was busy on my team. But the issue here of focusing on just getting the job done is that people will not remember something that just looks stylistically cool. Like, you may have seen a million different homes that have Joanna Gaines look, but until there's a story behind the visual elements, people will not remember it. It can look as cool as whatever, but in a world where we all have access to graphic designers, we all can make packaging for ice cream that looks cool. You're not unique just because you have a graphic design that looks funky. The story element, the why of why your product is better, why did you come into being, how, you know, in that first, which we talked about 2 weeks ago, about the you know, identifying the core problems that you're trying to solve for your customer, you want to connect your visual imagery and brand to your why, so that you're telling a story so that people will be able to remember it better. So if you like cool, you know, unicorns have been in, rainbows have been in, so you go and make an ice cream that's got rainbows and unicorns, cool, good for you. But there's no story there. I've seen unicorns everywhere. I see unicorn cookies. I've got a unicorn headrest that I used in the airplane 2 weeks ago when I was flying around. So you need to connect that to a story, which is the story of your product, your why, your customer, and all of those things are very important before you actually start the visual design elements of your project. Okay, so if you are on YouTube, you can see this mood board, and I am going to launch a business, this face mask company, and we are going to design it, and I'm in the process of designing based on this mood board. So you can see that here and see that it's very loud and tropical, because, you know, you can tell even by my nails that I like to be loud. So this applies to you. Then after you do the mood board process in threes, you go through and design 3 different logos and brands. And I want to share with you my logos and brands. Okay, so I have commissioned and crafted a couple of different names for this company because I love the beach. I just went to San Diego and I had my feet in the sand and found it very inspiring. And people were wearing face masks on the beach. So if you, hi Christine, so if you are interested in understanding what I'm doing, and that hopefully it would inspire you for your business to go from $0 to $200,000 in revenue, I invite you to YouTube or to Facebook Live so that you can actually see some of these actual designs that we have out here. Here they are. So like I said, this brand is going to be focused on being different than other face masks out there. We're going to go with something that is beach inspired, that's fun, that's happy. We're going to focus on really great product that's soft for your face, that, you know, completely covers you, hugs your nose so that there's not random air going all over the place and fogging up your glasses. And we're going to do it in a tropical way. And so here we go with the face mask names. Okay, so to do that, I went through and pulled a number of different friends based on these theories and based on the visual designs that we came up with. We identified the core names that we are going to consider for the logo and for the company name. And so here are some ideas. I want to invite you to make some proposals. Over in San Diego, they, for example, have tiki is a big theme, and it's a wood. Hi, Christine. I'm so glad you like it. So it's a wood statue that you actually put on as a mask. So one of the names that we thought about was tiki masks. So tiki beach masks, tiki face masks. When creating the title for the SEO of this company, we're going to try to incorporate the word face mask into it. So that way, when the title of the company is put into Google search, it's already there in the domain name. So that was one of them. We also looked, and so while we're coming up with this name, we're also validating it based on a quick Google search to see, has someone else already bought the domain name? Does an Instagram person, like a handle already exist out there? Is there anything controversial about that name that we should eliminate? We just recently finished a project for a cake company, and we looked up one of the words, and it was actually associated with a swear word in Vietnamese. So we we eliminated one of the names that our team had come up with, because after a very quick initial search, we realized that that name would actually be offensive to someone in Vietnam, and we don't want that. So again, right now we're in the process of identifying the name of this company that we are going to be launching, which is a new face mask company. We're going to go from $0 to $200,000 in revenue, and I'm showing you guys how to do this for yourself by doing it in front of you so that you can see that I know how to generate revenue and help to create a plan, and hopefully you can learn from it in building your own business. So again, these are all random face masks that I have bought that I do not like, and we're going to improve upon it. So I'd love to hear from anyone else if you guys have an idea for a face mask company, like a brand name based on what I've told you so far, which is I want to do bright, I want to do beach inspired face masks. I would love for it to be male and female. Oh, good, I've got someone here on YouTube. So if you're here, I think you can see my shared screen. And if you cannot, please let me know, because I am sharing with you the different logo explorations that we have generated on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So please post in the comments if you can't see it, because this is my first time doing it. And I can't tell if you can see it or not. Yeah, so anyway, so what I'm saying is tiki masks, face masks was one of the concepts. A tropical beach escape was one of the face masks. Hi, Titus. We also came up with, what was the other one? Oh gosh, it was called Ocean Wave face masks. So we went through this process, which I'm inviting you to join me in, where we wrote out a number of tropical exotic names that would attract our target audience. And this part of the process is truly an art. It's not necessarily a science. The only science part of it is making sure that the name that you have is available. Okay, and that's number one, that's available, and that it's not offensive to anyone. So you can do a quick Google search, go through GoDaddy, you can go through Instagram and check to make sure that any brand names that you come up with is not gonna like ruin, be a terrible, terrible idea. After you do that, you go through and you talk to your friends about that. You ask random strangers and you give them the opportunity to speak into and vote on whatever name you're considering. And so it's just really, truly an art. And what's funny is that who would have known that Apple would have become, for example, a world-renowned name of a company? Who would have thought Trader Joe's could have become something that would have changed all of our worlds in terms of grocery? So what I want to argue to you is that the name of your company is not so much, it's just an art, it's what you choose to pick, as long as it's not offensive and it's available, it's not infringing on someone's copyright or trademark, or pre-existing associations that your customers have. You can pick whatever name that you want, as long as you can sell it. And I would also argue, try to pick something that's easy for people to say. But if you believe in it after going through those elimination processes, no matter what that name is, I believe you'll be able to sell it if you've got some great product and branding behind it. So that takes us through the name process. The next thing that we go through is the logo exploration and ironing out what that is. So again, if you are watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, I currently have up here, I'm sharing screens, examples of the face masks that we have gone through to design. And you can see here, share screen. Here we go. Application, preview, share. Okay. You can see here that we have 4 different face masks that we're evaluating. So we started with this structural design piece, and we said, hey, it could look like this, which would just be a material that's sewn here. We also had one which with loose strings. You can see here that we had one where the ear loops were tied, and we also had designed one that was like this, but that had would be made with a softer material. So I'd be so curious to hear whether you liked, A, B, or C. I will post these later as a survey on Instagram. So if you want to participate and you can't see it now because it's only being displayed on YouTube Live, then come back for that. You can see now I'm scrolling here to page 2, where we took, based on the mood boards and brands we were showing you earlier, we have all of the available options that were on theme of this brand for patterns, print patterns that you could place onto your face mask. So similar to this, we are going to print onto the face mask really fun, bright, and bold colors. Now, of course, we are going to be doing some pre-selling, so I'm going to want to know which face mask you're going to want to buy. Because we've got so many bright, fun colors, and they're all beach inspired. We've got some for men, we've got some for women. So I'm scrolling through here. Hopefully you can see all of these really fun, wild, wild patterns, right? So the design process is really interesting because there's a science part, as I'm saying, and an art to it. Some elements of it you will not know until you start showing it to people and asking them to actually make a purchase, which is why I often encourage, especially brands, business owners who have never done a business before, who are just in the middle of their startup phase. I really encourage people to pre-sell or to go to a farmer's market to try to sell mock-ups, because until you have learned how to read your customer, the temptation is to like do everything perfectly before you and just bring it to market and have it ready to go and go Richter in terms of your sales. If you've never done it before, there's some things you just can't predict. You may not know that your blueberry flavor, which you happen to love, is not appealing to the people that you're trying to sell it to. And so, or these patterns, in this case, I've got some wild patterns here. I have some conservative patterns here. And if I went forward and I picked only my personal favorite face masks, you may not buy them. And then I'd be stuck with inventory. And there's literally no reason why I need to be stuck with, because I'm going to spend at least $40,000, buying all of this stuff. It's probably going to be more like 50. There's no reason for me to put $50,000 in revenue is stuck into face masks that may not sell. So the best strategy that I would give to anybody who's watching is to do something like a pre-sale, or even if you aren't selling, do a pre-launch where you're getting your customers to engage, kind of like what I'm doing now, to be able to vote on names, to be able to help give you feedback, because doing a business is not about you or your ego. It's about service, right? So we want to know what our customers are thinking, and we want to identify what their core interests are. And the best way to do it is to get people involved in this process. So here you can see, I just want to make sure you can see all this is sharing. Okay, so you can see all these different options. I'm going to be posting later on Instagram some of the patterns and some of the actual visual examples of the logo so that you could actually vote on them, as well as some naming opportunities. So you can help me vote on the name of the new face mask brand. And I would totally welcome an Instagram, a direct message with any other kinds of recommendations, feedback, pros and cons of any of the designs that I sent, alternative suggestions. I'd love for you to participate. So this is the process that I just went through of designing the visual elements of your upcoming brand. And it's a time-consuming piece, because truly to tell your story requires visual design. You could argue, I've got great product. Well, I will tell you that no one buys anything without visual design. Your packaging is the reason why someone picks up a product. And I would say, packaging is your website, it's your Amazon listing. And we define packaging as the structure that holds something, but really it's also the visual things that are printed on that box, or on that website, or on that on the pattern that they're happening to buy on that t-shirt. Those visual elements are truly what converts people to buy. And so it needs to be a primary focus. How are you going to connect your vision of why you're better to a sale, an action? And it's the visual calls, the cues that you are going to give to your customer that are going to cause them to buy once and then again. So I hope that you learned something from this process that I just shared with you. If you're like, Emily, this is so much information. Why are you sharing with us all the work that you do? Like, I'd love to know that too. Please do tell me what you found interesting or helpful, or what you might find helpful to learn at a different time. I offer consulting, executive consulting. Every month, you can meet with me twice a month, and we can talk about your business and build a strategy to go from $0 to $200,000 in revenue too, if you're interested. Or you can hire Pearl Resourcing to do the branding and packaging design for you. So thanks for joining me in this process. I appreciate everyone's time. I have another phone call, a consult actually at 1 o'clock. That's in 15 minutes. I got to go get ready. So I'll be posting some of this other stuff later for you to vote on. Thank you for joining me. And next week, I'll do another video that next week, it's going to be talking about, what am I talking about next week? Next week, oh, it's the packaging artwork and the actual product design. So I will have some actual mock-ups to show you, which is going to be so exciting. If you want to be able to like actually see what it's going to look like, I'll have some unprinted mock-ups because we've been testing and trying things on. And then also we'll show you the packaging artwork process, how we pick the structural design of the packaging, and how we take this brand and logo and apply it actually to the packaging artwork design. So I hope it inspires you. Thanks, Courtney, for all the love and likes. And I love you guys. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Please keep me posted. DM me if you have any other ideas or suggestions. Thanks so much. Bye.